From claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt.
EWTN Radio presents The Miracle Hunter with Michael O'Neill.
Welcome to the Miracle Hunter Radio Show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We're in the editing process for some new programs on EWTN. The Explore with the Miracle Hunter series is looking at some of the various places we filmed in Poland and Lithuania. One of those places that's currently in the editing process is Our Lady of Czestochowa. It was so wonderful to go to that incredible shrine there in Poland not too long ago. And her feast day is upon us now. August 26th is the celebration of the Queen of Poland. As I like to comment on this show, I've got an O apostrophe in my last name, but I'm really a Polish guy behind it all. And so it's exciting to go see that place of my people, you might say, dating back those years ago. And we'll be joined today by Father Timothy Tarnacki. He's from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. He'll be talking to us about the history of that great icon. We'll also be joined by Dr. Helen Hoffner, talking to us about the mysteries of the Rosary, some of the incredible miracles and other things that lead to that great devotion. And she'll teach you some things that you never knew about the Rosary and her new book. And check out my television series, They Might Be Saints. One of the early episodes, Bishop Frederick Baraga, airs this coming Wednesday. And this is a story of a great future saint. He trekked across Michigan's wilderness, and he earned the nickname the Snowshoe Priest. But his heroic virtue, bringing the gospel to Native Americans and immigrant miners, may earn Bishop Frederick Baraga sainthood. He now stands as venerable. And check out my other series, Explore with the Miracle Hunter. On the 31st of this month at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be traveling to the site in the French Alps where the Virgin of Sorrows appeared in tears to shepherd children, asking them for conversion and penance at La Salette in France. And that is Explore with the Miracle Hunter, La Salette. Check that one out on August 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Later in the show, we'll be looking at the 365 Days with Mary project. For today, August 24th, we've got Our Lady of the Miracle from Tucson in Colombia in the year 1626. The might-be saint of the day today is Blessed Veronica Antal from Romania, who lived from 1935 to 1958. She was a martyr. And the question of the week: what is the best part and the worst part of the new Vatican norms on assessing Marian apparitions? I'll do my best to answer that one later in the show. Let's take a look at the miracle news. We do this every week where we look at the miracles happening all around the world and those things that relate to miracles. There was big news this week related to the apparition or the locution or the miraculous image, whatever way you want to say it, on Akita in Japan. Sister Agnes Sasagawa, the visionary of Our Lady of Akita, she died at the age of 93. She's a Japanese nun and Catholic convert. She died on the Solemnity of the Assumption on August 15th. This is big news because perhaps we might say that there are one or two living approved Marian visionaries in history, and she was one of the last. So that is big news in the Marian apparition world anyway. And Sister Agnes Sasagawa, she was a Japanese nun who had visions of the Virgin Mary under the title of Our Lady of Akita, which include stark warnings for humanity and instructions how to pray the Rosary and repent of sin. She died at the age of 93 on August 15th. And a parish priest in Akita, Japan, confirmed to the Catholic News Agency by phone that Sister Agnes had died. And the order to which she belonged to, the Institute of the Handmaids of the Holy Eucharist, announced that Sister Agnes, who had been undergoing medical treatment for some time, died on the Solemnity of the Assumption of Mary. And she famously received a series of messages from Mary and witnessed other supernatural phenomena beginning 50 years ago. And the local bishop, John Sujiro Ito of Niigata, who founded the Sister Agnes's order and died in 1993, he gave the faithful in his diocese permission to venerate Our Lady of Akita in April 1984 after 8 years of investigation, and he found that her messages contained nothing contrary to Catholic doctrine or morals, and in doing so, he also approved the lacrimation or the crying of that statue and the bleeding of that statue, and said that there was no natural explanation for why that happened. And so, again, Sister Agnes Sasagawa, Our Lady of Akita Visionary, has died at the age of 93. Find out more information on the Akita Visions if you go to miraclehunter.com, and you can see the whole history and timeline of those incredible supernatural events. Let's take a look at Catholic Pub Trivia. We do this every week, where we look at a trivia question and give out a prize to an emailer that writes in the fastest with the correct answer. And last week we said that most saints have a feast day on their death anniversary, like their birthday in heaven, so to speak. The feast day of Michael McGivney falls on a very rare day. And the only saint like this, I think. How was his feast day chosen? And his feast day was actually chosen between his birth anniversary and his death anniversary. They picked the date right in the middle. Oftentimes you'll see the feast day on one or the other of those two, but since they were so close to each other, they picked the one right in the middle. So thanks for those who wrote in with the correct answer. And this week, I just spoke about Our Lady of Akita in Japan and Sister Agnes Sasagawa. And so that brings up this week's question. Name any non-martyr saints from the country of Japan. Again, name any non-martyr saints from the country of Japan. If you think you know that answer and want to win the prize, the image of the faces of Mary, send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and the fastest person with the correct answer is going to win that prize, and answers and winners will be posted on the show page on miraclehunter.com. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Dr. Helen Hoffner about the Rosary Collectors Guide. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. In Marian apparitions throughout history, we see Our Lady mentioning the Rosary, encouraging people to pray that Rosary. And we see, of course, in various cases, most notably the gold standard of Marian apparitions, which is Our Lady of Fatima, in so much as she's called Our Lady of the Rosary of Fatima. And so we're excited about a new book that's come out. The name of the book is The Rosary Collectors Guide. And I think this is a great book to put the focus back on the Rosary. We're joined today by the author, and that's Dr. Helen Hoffner. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Hoffner.
Thank you. It's very good to be here.
So we're excited about this book. Everybody who loves the Rosary or has a devotion to the Rosary is going to find this book especially interesting. Tell us what inspired you. Are you a Rosary collector? What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I am a Rosary collector, but actually my mother, who was born in 1928, collected rosaries all her life. And as I got to be an adult, I really saw the variations. You know, as a child, you learn basically the traditional 5-decade rosary. And through my childhood, I thought, well, there were red ones and blue ones, pretty beads, but I thought they were all the same. And as I got to be an adult and explored my mother's collection, I saw the many variations where some had 7 decades or some had beads in groups of 3. And it really inspired me to learn more about the variations that are approved by the Catholic Church.
And just to get it out there, I think many people are listening right now and saying, what do you mean there are more versions of the Rosary than the standard one that everybody prays? At least in our minds, we think that. What are these different variations of the Rosary that you feature in the Rosary Collector's Guide?
There is one that is used especially during Lent, a Stations of the Cross Rosary, that has beads in groups of 3 and has 14 groups so that you have meditations on each station of the Rosary. And usually people would say an Our Father, a Hail Mary, and a Glory Be on those 3 beads. And the one that I especially like to show people is often called a lasso rosary or a wedding rosary. Now, I live in the eastern part of the United States, in Pennsylvania. And it's more common in areas closer to Texas and areas of Mexico and other parts of the world. We use a wedding rosary, where you have 2 complete rosaries that are joined at the center of the medal. And during the wedding, the priest would put one around the neck of the bride, one around the neck of the groom, and say prayers. And then sometimes they're taken apart at the reception after the wedding. they would have a class sort of like a necklace, so you could take the two separate rosaries apart and give one to the bride's family, one to the groom's family to pray for the couple. Sometimes I even have 3 rosaries together, so that during the wedding, one is around the neck of the bride, one around the groom, and one hangs between them. And then at the reception, one goes to the bride's family, one to the groom's family, and the couple keeps one to pray. And I think out of all the rosaries in our collection, the wedding rosaries, they're really the most special and the one that many people haven't seen before.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I think a lot that's new to a lot of people. And in your book, the Rosary Collectors Guide, you identify these variations of the rosary. You talk about the crosses, crucifixes, and medals. You talk about the age and the origin of the materials. And what's also interesting to me is the various legends and stories that might be associated with the rosary. And of course, we've talked in the past. I've talked in the past on this radio show about the gifting of the rosary to Saint Dominic, famously in Prouy in France. What other legends and stories do we have related to the rosary?
Well, maybe the most famous is we celebrate on October 7th the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. Before that, it was called Our Lady of Victory. Back in history, on October 7th, 1571, there was a famous battle at Lepanto, where the Turks were really almost ready to take over much of the world, and Islam was going to be spread more than anyone would ever, more than Christians would like to see it happening. And there was an entire Christian army, over 200 ships. And the Pope at the time encouraged everyone on the ship to pray the rosary, encouraged all the lay people at home praying to pray the rosary. And the Christian forces were victorious. And I think we always think about that famous victory on October 7th about Lepanto, that we really had the rosary defeating evil forces in the world.
Absolutely. We're talking today with Dr. Helen Hoffner about her book, The Rosary Collectors Guide. And it's a fascinating book with all the varieties of the rosary and everything you ever wanted to know about the world's most famous sacramental. And when you wrote this book, what did you learn that you didn't know already walking into this project?
Well, I learned that there's a museum in England where there's actually a tenor that belonged to Henry VIII before his famous break with the church. I thought that was interesting to see a carved rosary that was given to Henry VIII actually during his childhood. It was thought given to him. And I learned that during World War I, United States chaplains who were serving the military forces were given rosaries that they could give to the people that they were serving, the personnel. Now, I'm sure nowadays that chaplains, maybe out of their own funds or out of church funds, will give rosaries to service personnel. But during World War I, they were actually paid for with government money, where now, of course, with separation of church and state, that wouldn't happen. They were some of the strongest rosaries ever made. Some people call them a plumber's rosary because they were made of brass beads that looked like a pull chain, that you would have a pull chain on, say, a sink stopper or a light post. And the chaplains would give these to the soldiers. Some of them, if you find them today in antique stores or museums, they look very dull. The soldiers would actually do something called bluing to dull the beads because they didn't want them to shine where the enemy would maybe see them and give away their location. So I think looking at the military rosary, that's been one of the most interesting things for me.
Oh, that's fascinating. And, of course, the value of a rosary is spiritual. It helps people pray and helps perhaps get their soul to heaven, and the others that they pray for help them to get to heaven as well. So the value is spiritual. But in your experience looking at rosaries, and perhaps there isn't an exact answer to this, what would be perhaps the rarest or most expensive or most valuable rosary, at least in monetary terms, that you've learned of?
Well, there's a legend that Lady Godiva had a rosary made out of jewels, but she asked them in her will to have it sold to raise money for a monastery. Mother Teresa, in her time of visiting places, she would visit countries and people would give her gifts of beautiful rosaries. But of course, in Mother Teresa's way, she would sell them to raise money for her missions. And what she carried for her own personal rosary was one made out of just seeds. She liked seeds that came from her native lands. And of course, as you said, we can pray just as well on a simple seed rosary as we could a diamond rosary. But
That's
you have
right.
famous people like Lady Godiva with her rosary made of jewels. Melania Trump carried a rosary of diamonds when she married Donald Trump. So there are some diamond ones, but then we also have Mother Teresa with her simple one of beads.
Yeah, fascinating. I was just curious at this, given that you have this expertise in this new book called The Rosary Collectors Guide. And let's go through the book a little bit. Let's tell the audience how the book is laid out and how you wanted to present the information to the reader. What would somebody encounter if they went through your book?
Well, when the book was first conceived, my mother, as I said, collected rosaries all her life. And every Christmas, Mother's Day, I wanted to get her like a coffee table book to show various rosaries and how you determine the age of them. And we just couldn't find any on the market. There are many wonderful prayer books, but there was nothing to tell you, what does this center medal mean? What do these extenders mean? So that's really how the book came about, because we just couldn't find it and we needed it for ourselves. It starts off with identifying center medals and how in the early days of rosaries, they didn't even have a center. And then later the center medals came. And then it shows extenders. It has sections on different types of beads, like the seeds that Mother Teresa used, or in Ireland, they would use Connemara marble, things that were native to that land. So we talk about the type of beads, and we talk about the variations that came, and how, of course, most of them are the 5-decade rosaries, but some will have all 15, and then some even will include the luminous mysteries. So we try to explain to people what the beads mean, what unusual symbols might mean, and how even to determine how old your rosary is. When we show our collection, that's usually a common question. And we always tell people, start with the center medal, because a lot of times over time, people will take a cross or crucifix off the rosary and use it for a necklace or various purposes, but it's usually very difficult to remove the center medal. So a center medal would show you how old it is. And then you look to see if the chain looks about the same age as the center medal. And we look at various things like that to determine how old it is, if people want to sort of know how long a rosary has been in their family.
Wonderful. Well, I think that, yeah, you're right. That's probably one of the most common questions you get in looking at a rosary. And in the writing of this book, The Rosary Collector's Guide, of course, I can tell that you have a great interest in the rosary and rosaries, and you have a passion for it. What is your hope? Who are the people that you're hoping to reach with this book?
I want people to understand that the rosary is something that belongs to all of us. And I'd like people to have a greater appreciation for it. I've heard some people say, oh, it's monotonous. But actually, I heard a wonderful quote from Father Chris Alar saying, you can almost consider the rosary to be sort of a background. You're focusing on the life of Christ, in that the joyful mysteries, you're focusing on Christ's birth, the sorrowful, you're focusing on death, the glorious, the resurrection, the luminous life of Christ. You're thinking about all these mysteries as you pray it. And it's really a uniting thing. And Pope Francis even pointed out the research that the calmness of the rosary has actually been proven to lower people's blood pressure. So I think I want people to see the benefits in terms of prayer, and it's also nice. It also has that side effect of lowering blood pressure.
Yeah, that is a nice bonus. And for people who want to pick up your book, The Rosary Collector's Guide, where can they go to find out more about you, Dr. Helen Hoffner, and the book itself?
They can go to, the publisher is Schiffer Publishing, but it's also available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon, maybe sometimes Amazon and Barnes & Noble where people are most familiar.
Wonderful. And for you, where can they go to find out more about you and your work, Dr. Helen Hoffner?
I'm a professor at Holy Family University, and they can look me up at Holy Family University. It's just hhoffner at holyfamily.edu. And I also have a blog called The Rosary Collector at WordPress.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Dr. Helen Hoffner, author of this book, The Rosary Collector's Guide. Thank you so much for being with us on today's program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
God bless. That was Dr. Helen Hoffner talking to us about the Rosary. Fascinating book called The Rosary Collector's Guide. Check that one out. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at the question of the week. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. People write in from around the world with questions related to miracles and love to get my take on it. So I love getting your questions. People send me emails to questions@miraclehunter.com. And I also love getting the in-person questions. So when I speak around the country, I usually give about 20 talks per year. I travel to different Catholic parishes, shrines, organizations that host me to speak about miracles. I've been talking a lot about Eucharistic miracles these days because it lines up exactly to the Eucharistic revival in our Catholic Church here in America. But I talk on different topics, Marian apparitions and otherwise. People who want to invite me to speak at their parish can go to my website, miraclehunter.com, click on the contact tab, and you can send me a message that way. And maybe I'll be speaking at a parish in your area coming soon. But I love getting your questions, and question I got this week is one that's coming up a little bit. And the question is, Dear Miracle Hunter, what is the best part and the worst part of the new Vatican norms on assessing Marian apparitions? Larry. Well, thanks, Larry, for your question. It's a good one. And as I've talked about many times on this show or in the past giving presentations, I'd like to talk about the norms for the congregation in proceeding and judging alleged private revelations and apparitions. That's the long-winded title of the Vatican document from 1978 that for years and years was the official rule book established by Rome in which Marian apparitions and perhaps other miracles were investigated according to these norms as well. And so I oftentimes when I would give a talk, I'd present on this rule book, but I'd also say, any day now, we're going to see something new coming out of Rome. Well, I said that for many, many years, and any day now was just a couple months ago. On May 17th, the Vatican released a new document, and Victor Cardinal Fernandez released the details of that document in a press conference. I was invited to be a part of that press conference. I connected via Zoom to hear Cardinal Fernandez present that, and questions were asked related to that. And so I think it's such an interesting thing. They've clearly been working a while on this, and perhaps maybe the bigger question that I should try to answer is, why did they do this document? And I think they did this document to prepare to release a judgment on Medjugorje, those alleged Marian apparitions from 1981 in Bosnia-Herzegovina, to six children who are now adults, and the apparitions are ongoing even to this day. And I believe it's been sort of a little bit of a complicated situation for Rome. They don't necessarily want to approve it. They don't want to condemn it with the many millions of pilgrims who have gone there over the years for both to see miracles themselves, but for graces, for conversions, and also for healings. And some of those things have indeed happened. So the Catholic Church doesn't want to put a stop to any of that. So they want to encourage Medjugorje in some way, but the classic levels of approval that were found in the 1978 document probably don't fit the mold, and so of what they want to do. So I think they rewrote these rules in order to find one that they could apply to Medjugorje, and so could therefore almost wash their hands of it and say a ruling has been made. That's just my theory anyway. But so when we talk about the good parts of this new Vatican document, we can talk about how now that there is greater clarity. In 1978, when this document came out, it was released sub secreto, secretly, to all the bishops of the world in Latin. It's since been translated and now is available on websites all around the world, including my own, miraclehunter.com. But the Vatican had announced this as well, and you can see it on their website. But it was done secretly at first. And one of the very interesting things is that we see that when a judgment came out from a local bishop investigating the supernaturality of a vision, they often, or they by rule weren't allowed to say they were collaborating with Rome or checking with Rome to find out what they thought. And Rome very rarely acknowledged some things coming out by the local bishop. And sometimes Rome would have to swoop in the case of Amsterdam or in Lipa in the Philippines, and release a much later judgment. But it would have been a lot easier if they were all just admitting that they were all working together. So the new document asks for this sort of transparency. And so when a bishop makes a judgment, he will come out with a statement, and he'll say in accord with Rome. And so we're very clear that Rome has been involved. And so when we talk about other positive aspects of this, I think that the new document is more inclusive, not inclusive in a funny kind of a way, but in the sense that in the previous document, it only related to Marian apparitions and locutions. So that is, we might say messages or revelations from Mary or from Jesus or the saints, but not any other kind of miracles. And anybody who's read my books like Science and the Miraculous know that there are very many ways that miracles have happened in today's world, and the Church investigates. We're talking about Marian apparitions, weeping statues, stigmata, Eucharistic miracles, healing miracles, incorruptible saints. And there's a handful of different things that the Church might say is miraculous, but when we talk about the official rule book, it only applied to Marian apparitions. And so now the new document that came out on May 17th, that applies to all types of miracles. And so, of course, healing miracles are still kept in the bucket there over by the Dicastery for the Causes of Saints. They're in charge of those miracles. But pretty much everything else falls over to the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith and this new document. So the new document is more inclusive of all the different types of miracles. So I think that's a little bit more clear, and that's a little bit easier. I was often asked, how does the Church investigate all those other ones? And I say, probably something similar to the Marian apparitions document. But now the document officially looks at all those other things. And the other aspect that's new about this document is instead of 3 levels of approval that the Church might give related to apparitions. Before, in the past, it was kind of a green light, yellow light, red light situation, where for green light they might say, constate supernaturalitate, it is established as supernatural, and red light was constate non supernaturalitate, so that is, it is established as not supernatural. It's definitely not supernatural. And the yellow light version, I might say, is non constate supernaturalitate, which would translate to, it's not established as supernatural. So we're not sure. It's a maybe. It might be, it could be. We don't know if it is. And so there were 3 levels of approval, and now the new document has 6 levels of approval. And so perhaps that lends towards greater precision in the Vatican sort of saying exactly what it wants to say with relating to these apparitions that are claimed, rather miracles. They can kind of give a judgment that lines up exactly in a detailed way to what they want to say. However, so those are all positive things, I think, from this new document. So I'm happy for all those changes, and I think all those changes will lead to more expedient processing of alleged private revelation. Sometimes it had taken weeks or months, or it had taken years and years, decades or so, to come back with a judgment from the Church. And in the meantime, people are wondering where the Church stands on such things, when perhaps it could have come out in weeks or months or years, but we had decades. And so now it can move much faster. So I think that's definitely a positive development, because people aren't developing their own attachments to these alleged apparitions that they shouldn't, and perhaps people get more answers when they have curiosity about how the Church stands on such thing. The big negative, the big lacuna, the black hole, the blind spot in this new document is that there no longer is the establishment of an apparition as supernatural. And so we're talking about these very famous cases, of course, something like Lourdes, Fatima, Guadalupe, where the Catholic Church said, beyond doubt, we established that the Virgin Mary has appeared at this location on this date, and it's worthy of belief for all Christian faithful. So I think that that's something that's missing. In the new document, what happens is they say that there's nothing in the way of belief. So nihil obstat, nothing obstructs. That's the highest level of Church approval an apparition could ever get. So basically they're saying nothing's wrong with it, and the faithful can engage with it if they want. But they're not saying, yes, Mary really appeared here. There's reason to believe in the supernatural character. They're not saying that at all. They're kind of leaving it for the faithful to discern. And so that's tricky in its own way, but it allows them to turn around these judgments much quicker. When they're throwing this hot potato and taking away from the bishop and taking away from the Vatican, they're kind of throwing the hot potato back to the people, the faithful, and saying, you make your mind up about it, but there's nothing wrong with it if you want to. So that's the new decision out of Rome. And there is a one line in that document that I think is very interesting. And it says that the Pope, if he wants to, can approve something as supernatural. And so they don't lay out any path for that. They don't say that the local bishop will make a special request to Rome that it's further investigated, or it doesn't say, within 3 to 5 years or 10 years, it will expire, the potential for it being declared supernatural. It's just always out there. The Pope could on any morning, or the next Pope or a future Pope, wake up and say, I'm going to declare this one supernatural. And so that's the problem, is that we have no idea. We have no line of sight into what the Vatican will be doing or might be doing, with the sort of the supposition that they won't be doing anything. So that's kind of complicated. So somebody once asked me in an interview, they said, Miracle Hunter, are you out of a job since there will never be an approved Marian apparition in history? And I'm not out of a job, thankfully, but I think that's somewhat true in the sense that my money would be on that we will never, ever see another Marian apparition approved as supernatural. Like Fatima Lourdes and Guadalupe, we have 2,500 Marian apparitions claimed throughout history, or reported throughout history. Something like 16 times the Vatican has shown its approval, maybe a little less than 30. We see where the local bishop has shown their approval to it. But we'll never see this ever again. This is now a thing of the past, unless a new document were to come out and change that. So that is my long-winded answer to what were the good parts and the bad parts about the new Vatican document. But should be interesting. We've seen 5 new statements coming out of Rome since May 17th. So they're working on their backlog, and they're moving quickly now, which is a great thing. However, there won't be any supernatural announcements for any time in the near future, if ever. So thanks very much for your question. If you have a question for the Miracle Hunter, send me an email to miraclehunter@EWTN.com or questions@miraclehunter.com. Send me a message that way, and maybe I'll be trying to answer your question on the air next week. Let's take a look at the 365 Days with Mary project. We do this every week where we look at the Marian devotion of the day as it lines up exactly to the day's date. We all know Fatima May 13th, or Guadalupe December 12th, or Lourdes February 11th, but there's a different Marian devotion on each and every day of the calendar year. Perhaps it's the feast day, or the commemoration of a great miracle, or perhaps it's the building of a basilica, or some other commemoration honoring Mary all around the world. But for today's date, we've got Our Lady of Buenos Aires in Argentina in 1536. And the story is that the port city of Buenos Aires was founded and named in 1536 by Pedro de Mendoza, a Spanish explorer who brought a statue of Santa Maria del Buen Aire. Mariners had long held a devotion to Our Lady of Good Air as patron of seafaring. As a result, her title was altered in Argentina and some other places to Nuestra Señora de los Buenos Aires, Our Lady of the Good Winds. For the 500th anniversary, the celebration of the arrival of the statue in Sardinia on April 24th, 1870, the Bishop of Eritrea canonically crowned the Madonna of Bon Aria as a representative of Pope Pius IX. The ceremonies of this date have inspired devotions of Our Lady of Good Air to continue to celebrate April 24th in her honor. Devotees celebrate that every single year, and that's Our Lady of Buenos Aires, Nuestra Señora de Buenos Aires from Argentina in 1536. For more information on this fascinating devotion, or any of the hundreds of other Marian devotions from around the world, you can connect to 365dayswithmary.com. You can pick up the book. You can download the free app on the iOS App Store, Marian Calendar 365 Days with Mary. Or you can connect to the Facebook page and join any of the 10,000 other followers who check out a new title of Mary each and every day of the calendar year. Let's take a look at the sainthood news. We do this every week, where we look at those who might be saints, lining up to my television series, They Might Be Saints, which airs on EWTN on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and also my book of the same name, They Might Be Saints. I think it's my best one. It's available from EWTNRC.com. And if we look at the sainthood news, we'll find out there's new beatification happening. A Mexican priest will be beatified on September 14th. Moises Lira Serafin was a holy priest who spent most of his life helping those he encountered to live as children loved by God. Last year, the Dicastery for the Causes of Saints authorized the first miracle attributed to the intercession of Moises Lira Serafin. And this paved the way for his beatification, which is currently scheduled for September 14th. And that will be in the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. So if you want to know who Moises is, according to the biography on the Dicastery for the Causes of Saints website, he was born in Zacatlan in Puebla on September 16th in 1893, and he felt called to the priesthood and joined the invitation of Father Felix de Jesus Rogier, the founder of the Missionaries of the Holy Spirit, of which he became the first novice. And during the religious persecution in Mexico in 1926, he formed a group of acolytes and catechists in order to encourage young people in spiritual growth and the exercise of the apostolate. And later he founded the Congregation of the Missionaries of Charity of Mary Immaculate, with the mission of helping all men to live as children loved by God. And Moises died on June 25th, 1950 in Mexico City. So that's a future saint for you, a saint out of Mexico, Moises Lira Sarafin. With one more miracle, he will be declared a saint. Let's take a look at the Might Be Saint of the Day. We do this every week, where we talk about those people on the path to sainthood and the search for canonization miracles. And for today's date, we have Blessed Veronica Antal from Romania. She was born on December 7th, 1935. She was the eldest of 4 children in her family. Veronica was taught Christianity by her pious grandmother. When she was old enough, the girl would walk 5 miles each day to her place in Romania for daily Mass as the closest church to her home. Veronica was drawn to religious life, but all religious orders had been outlawed by the communist government. So she joined the lay Franciscans at age 17. She helped care for the local sick and poor. She taught catechism to children and prayed in a cell she constructed in her parents' house. On the evening of August 24th, 1958, Veronica stayed after Mass to clean up the church, then began praying the rosary as she walked home. On the road, she was attacked by a neighbor who made demands on her, and when she refused, she was stabbed to her death. She is considered a martyr of chastity. And she died again on August 24th, 1958. So she had been stabbed 42 times and was left to bleed out on that evening in a cornfield in Romania. She was declared venerable on January 26, 2018 by Pope Francis in a decree of her heroic virtues, and she was then declared beatified as a martyr the following day, September 22nd, later that year, I should say, by Pope Francis, and her beatification was celebrated in Rome, presided over by Cardinal Angelo Becciu. An interesting trivia, she was the first Romanian woman to be beatified and the first Romanian layperson formally honored as a martyr from the period of communist rule. And so that is Blessed Veronica Antal. With one more miracle, she will be Saint Veronica. For more information on They Might Be Saints, you can check out the website theymightbesaints.com. And you can also go and check out the television series, which airs every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on EWTN television. On this week's show, we have the Bishop Frederick Berga program of They Might Be Saints. Trekking across Michigan's wilderness earned him the nickname of the Snowshoe Priest, but his heroic virtue bringing the gospel to Native Americans and immigrant miners may earn Bishop Frederick Berga sainthood. One of my absolute favorite episodes, They Might Be Saints, Bishop Frederick Berga, and that's this Wednesday coming up at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite Marian icons, Our Lady of Czestochowa, with Father Timothy Tarnacki from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We talk a lot on this show about Marian icons, and I travel the world for my Explore series on EWTN, and I've gotten to see some of the greatest miraculous icons in history. Of course, I love Our Lady of Guadalupe there in Mexico, but perhaps one of my other all-time favorites is Our Lady of Czestochowa in Poland. That's probably partly because I'm a partly Polish guy myself, despite the O apostrophe in my last name. But I think the story behind Our Lady of Czestochowa is amazing, and the stories of miracles and the visits of popes to this incredible icon are inspiring for Catholics around the world. Well, we've got the feast day of Our Lady of Czestochowa coming up on August 26th, the Queen of Poland, as we would call her, and we're so excited to be joined again today by Father Timothy Tarnacki from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Welcome back to the program, Father Timothy.
Hello, Michael, and thank you so much for this invitation. It's so good to be here with you and talk about Our Lady of Czestochowa.
Yeah, this is, for me, especially for Polish Americans and for Polish people around the world, this is the title of Mary that is most thought of when we talk about the Queen of Poland, Our Lady of Czestochowa. Let's talk a little bit about the history. What do we know? There are some legendary stories about where this icon comes from. Some have said that perhaps St. Luke painted it on the dining room, the kitchen table of the Holy Family. And then there are other ideas about the origin of this image. What do we know? Where does the image of Our Lady of Czestochowa come from?
So the icon of Our Lady of Czestochowa is a little bit, the origins of that icon are a little bit mysterious to us. Of course, as you mentioned, Michael, the legend attributes St. Luke as the painter, as the author of this icon. There are a few icons that are believed that St. Luke painted of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and so Our Lady of Czestochowa is one of them. According to the legends, we know that after being in the Holy Land, the icon was found by Saint Helena, and it was in Constantinople. And from that, it ended up being in Russia, in the East, until the Prince of Poland, Prince Ladislaus, he found this icon during one of his military operations that he was going into the East, fighting some battles, and during that time he came into the possession of this icon and brought it with him to Poland. So the history is a little bit mysterious. We know definitely that the icon of Our Lady of Czestochowa is a Greek icon, and so it has characteristics of a Greek icon, and so it comes from that eastern part of Christianity.
And can you explain a little bit of the iconography as it relates to Greek icons? I think it's of that famous style. Talk to us about the specific style of icon that we see in Our Lady of Czestochowa.
Yes, so the icons in Eastern Christianity in Greece, they would always have symbols, and they would basically, like through their characteristics, they would present a type of a language. Just like the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, when we do some research, we can get to know what some things mean, what symbols mean. With the icon in the East, with the iconography in the East, we even say that you don't paint the icons, you write them, because there's a specific language of symbols, colors, gestures that are presented in the icon, and the icon becomes sort of the window, a window to God, to the Blessed Mother, to heaven. And so through that icon, we can experience the Lord, we can experience the Lord through his saints. And so this type of icon that we have, the Our Lady of Czestochowa, is called Chodogetria, which can be translated as the one who shows the way. So we see that when we look at the icon of Our Lady, as Mary with her right hand, she points to Jesus, who is the way. And so this is the moment in the gospel at the wedding at Cana when Mary said, "Do whatever my son tells you." And so the icon of Our Lady of Czestochowa is ultimately expressing that gospel passage in a very deep theological way. Mary is showing the way, Jesus, who is the way, and that's why it is this style of icon is Chodogetria, the one who shows the way, Mary showing us Jesus.
We're talking today with Father Timothy Tarnacki from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And of course, that image of Our Lady of Czestochowa is famous, having a very severe look with a scar on her face. This is sort of something that the Polish people have embraced, and there's a sort of a legend or a story that talks about how that scar came to be. First, talk about what the meaning of the scar might be for the Polish people especially, and then what do we know? How did that scar get there in the first place?
Yes, so the scar was not part of the original icon of the original painting. When the shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa started in 1382 with the Pauline Fathers building a chapel and then eventually growing the shrine to Our Lady, many votive offerings were brought by the people who have experienced graces through the intercession of Our Lady. And a lot of those votive offerings or jewels, they were attached to the icon itself. That was a very ancient practice of expressing gratitude and thanksgiving to God and to the saints, to the Blessed Mother, for graces received. And so in 15th century, the Hussites, the followers of John Hus, when they were ravaging that part of Poland, they attacked the shrine of Jasna Góra, of Our Lady of Czestochowa, and so they wanted to steal the votive offerings, and so it was just easier for them to take the whole image of Our Lady. And then they put it on the wagon as they were running away with the icon and with the jewels and votive offerings. And then when they were being chased, all of a sudden the horses pulling the wagon, they refused to move forward. And so in their anger, they slashed Mary's face with their sword. And so those scars then became the sign of Mary as being the sorrowful mother. Mary who's under the cross with her son Jesus, but who also accompanies each one of us through our sufferings and through our struggles in our life, and especially connected with the history of the Polish nation. As Poland in the following centuries has experienced a lot of wars, a lot of persecution, losing her independence and then going into times of bondage and slavery, World War I and regaining independence, and World War II, a horror of the World War II, and then the time of communism. So a lot of these situations, they helped the Polish people to see Mary as their queen and as a mother who understands the suffering of her children.
Absolutely. We've been talking today with Father Timothy Tarnacki. He's giving us the background of Our Lady of Czestochowa and her great meaning for the Polish people and beyond. And Father Timothy, when we talk about Our Lady of Czestochowa, we can talk about miracles. Why did they consider this to be a miracle-working icon?
There were many miracles associated with Our Lady, especially at the shrine of Jasna Góra. There are volumes of recorded miracles that has happened through the intercession of Mary. Many healings, many amazing graces, not only in the past throughout centuries, but also in recent times as well. So Mary has always been in some way showing us that she's still with us, that she's accompanying us. One of the very famous miracles is during World War II, when the German pilots they were given orders to bomb the shrine of Our Lady. For some reason, all of this was not successful. They could not find their way. They could not bomb the shrine. And there are many stories like that prove to us the intercession of Our Lady, and so many ways how she's present at her shrine in Poland, but also everywhere where we can see the image of Our Lady of Czestochowa. So as the image is all over the world now, especially spread by the love and devotion of St. John Paul II, Wherever we see the image of Our Lady of Czestochowa, we can also ask for these graces, ask for these miracles, for this intercession, but especially at shrines dedicated to her, such as the one in Poland and the one in Pennsylvania, the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown.
Wonderful. And let's talk about your shrine there in Doylestown. I know the Feast of Our Lady of Czestochowa is upon us, coming right up here. Talk a little bit about if somebody were to visit your shrine, a pilgrim from the area or for anybody from anywhere around the world, if they were to come to your shrine, what would they see and experience at the shrine at Doylestown?
Yes, so the Feast of Our Lady of Czestochowa is coming up on the 26th of August. And then at our shrine, we're going to be celebrating it the Sunday that's closest to that day, so the 25th. And so this is a major solemnity at the shrine. And so if people who are coming to visit, even for the first time, it's a great occasion to encounter the Blessed Mother. And so we'll have all Masses at the shrine celebrated from the solemnity of Our Lady. So it's an occasion to receive a plenary indulgence by visiting the shrine and praying through the intercession of Mary. The main celebrations will happen at 11 a.m. That's the main Mass in English. And then the main Mass in Polish at 12:30 will be presided by Archbishop Thomas Łęcki, the Archbishop of Miami. And so the whole day will be dedicated to Mary. And then at 3:30 p.m., there will be a special devotion to Our Lady with a Eucharistic procession around shrine grounds. So that's at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Father Timothy Tarnacki, joining us to talk about Our Lady of Czestochowa and your great shrine there. I've been there myself. It's a beautiful place. I encourage anybody with a background from Poland or otherwise, somebody with a devotion to Our Lady of Czestochowa, or who would just like to see a beautiful shrine in this area. We'd love to recommend that people visit in Doylestown, Our Lady of Czestochowa, the national shrine there. Thank you so much, Father Timothy, for joining us on today's program.
Thank you so much, and I hope you can visit us at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa, and that you can find your personal connection with the Blessed Mother through this amazing icon.
Wonderful. God bless you, Father. And that was Father Timothy Tarnacki from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. You can find out more if you go to the website czestochowa.us. And that's all the time we have for today's show. If you missed any of this episode or want to catch up on past episodes, you can go to EWTN.com/radio, check out the audio archives, and download the free EWTN app. I'd like to thank our guests today, Dr. Helen Hoffner, talking to us about the Rosary, and Father Timothy Tarnacki, shedding light on Our Lady of Czestochowa. Check out my series, Explore with the Miracle Hunter, which airs every Saturday. This Saturday coming up, the 31st of August at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the Miracle Hunter show travels to the site in the French Alps where the Virgin of the Sorrows appeared in tears to shepherd children, asking them for conversion and penance. That's Explore with the Miracle Hunter, La Salette, this week. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today on Miracle Hunter, where from claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt. Talk to you next week.